Okay, now that you have figured out how to do mean, median, and mode, and then the next section you'll be doing range and standard deviation, let's talk about some of the uses and misuses of statistics. Many things should be considered when you take into account whether your data or your claim is reliable or not. And this is just a few of the things you should consider. First of all, suspect samples. Were the samples large enough? If they weren't large enough, if they say 3 out of 4 dentists recommend something, well, 4 is not very many people to interview. Okay, you can't make an opinion based on that. And how are the subjects chosen? Is it a sample that represents everyone they're talking about? Or did they just pick and choose certain people to sample? Another thing is ambiguous averages. Did they use the mean, median, mode, or mid-range? And why was that chosen? Because they are all very different. They can call them all averages. The measures of central tendency can all be called averages, but they're very different. So here's just an example. If they recorded speeds in a school zone and they got 10, 13, 10, 7, 10, 70, there's always the one idiot, right? When you do the mean is very affected by an outlier. 70 is an outlier. So the mean would be 20, but that's really too high to represent most of the people. So if we look at the median and the mode are 10. Those are better statistics to use to represent this data. Now, mid-range would be 38.5. That's way higher than all but one of the data sets. So it really depends. Some people choose it by their purpose. So if you're complaining in the newspaper about students driving too fast, you're going to use the mean or the mid-range. But if you're a student, you could be the one saying, hey, listen, we had 6 people that they looked at and only one was going way over the speed limit. So you should always question when they say averages. Are they talking about the mean, the median, the mode, the mid-range? Which one? Another thing they do is change the subject. These comments represent the same data. During my administration, expenditures increased a mere 3%. Doesn't sound bad. During my opponent's administration, expenditures have increased a whopping $6 million. That sounds horrible, but that would represent 3%. It's all in how you sell it in your commercial. So you have to be very careful about what they're saying. Another one is detached statistics, where no comparison is made. Our brand of crackers had 1/3 fewer calories. Well, fewer than what? They'll put a picture on the ad up of another brand of crackers. But if they're not specific, they're being ambiguous on purpose. Brand A aspirin works 4 times faster. Well, faster than what? If they're not specific, then they're probably not telling the truth. The next one, implied connections. Eating fish may help to reduce cholesterol. Studies suggest that using our exercise machine will reduce your weight. Taking calcium will lower blood pressure in some people. If they have to say any of these things, they can't prove it. Okay? So I always call this the Cheerios example. What is it? Cheerios may help with cholesterol. If they have to say may or suggest, they can't prove it. The next thing they talk about is misleading graphs. If the graphs do not have labels and they don't have numbers that are on the X and the Y axis so that you can read them carefully, they're often very misleading. A common thing they do is they'll leave out the data from like 0 to 50, but they'll start at the bottom of a graph, and it makes the graphs look considerably different if you leave out a lot of data. So always check the X and Y axis on your graphs and see if they're leaving anything out to trick you. The last one we'll talk about is faulty survey questions. How a question is asked can lead to a desired answer. Do you feel that the North Huntington School District should build a new football stadium? Well, a lot of people say yes, those kids deserve a new stadium. And then, do you favor increasing school taxes so that the North Huntington District or school district can build a new stadium? Well, nobody wants more taxes, so they're going to say no. It's all in how you ask it. You may not know it, but we had high-speed rail on the ballot for Florida, and it got approved. But no one thought about how we pay for it. So then when they started trying to tax, all of a sudden, it was on the ballot again to repeal it and take it off. That's why we don't have high-speed rail. So it's all in how they ask it, and you need to be a good consumer and think about these things and try and make sure that you're not being misled.